This film stars Jim Carrey, Carla Gugino, and is directed by Mark Waters. This film is based off of the ever so popular children's book, which I, among many others, probably read it in elementary school or whenever. And unlike a lot of the books that I read in school, I actually liked this book. Now, for those of you that are wondering, this story does not follow the exact storyline from the book. In fact, I don't really think it follows it at all. This is a very basic storyline that's somewhat reminiscent of films like Alvin and the Chipmunks, and if you've seen that movie, you know what I mean. And in films like these, where it's kind of a family fun adventure, they have, dumb jokes and, not the best dialogue and subpar acting. And what I found with this movie is that I went into it kind of expecting all this. And even though that's pretty much what I got, I still really enjoy myself. And unfortunately, this is one of those films where you're probably going to have to see it with a bunch of small kids. And if you want to avoid that, then I suggest you go to like a midnight showing or whatever. But then you have to pay more, so that doesn't really work out. Jim Carrey, he's a very good comedic actor, and even though he didn't do his best work in this movie, it ultimately isn't terrible. He isn't given the best script, and even though there is cheesy dialogue, it's not the kind of dialogue where you have to roll your eyes. I actually did laugh in this movie quite a bit. I didn't laugh, out loud uproariously, but I did laugh, and I found myself really enjoying this film, smiling a lot. It's a feel-good movie, and if you go into this film wanting the next King speech, and for those of you that have seen that movie, you know what I mean, you're not going to get that. I'm not one of those critics that is snobbish and is looking for a strong plot and great characters when I see a movie like this. When you hear a movie called Mr. Popper's Penguins, or when you hear that title, you don't expect the Tree of Life. You expect an Alvin and the Chipmunks sort of film. And that's what you get. It's that sort of formula, but it works with this film somehow. And with that saying, the cast is pretty good. I don't remember the kids' names, but Jim Carrey and Carla Gugino do a very good job with the roles that they're given. And I thought that the dialogue was very witty, and I didn't laugh at every single joke, but of course, you're not going to. The penguins are CG, and that didn't ruin the experience for me, honestly. The penguins were actually quite funny, and they weren't really a nuisance. I mean, it follows this, very basic storyline that's really standard where, this guy is very busy with his work and doesn't have time for his family. He has an ex-wife, and the penguins come into his life, and they sort of make him more of a family man, and his family comes to love him again, and it all ends in a happy marathon or whatever. And despite the fact that this is a very predictable film, doesn't mean that it isn't enjoyable. So for those of you who want to see a fun family film and have a few laughs, then this is the perfect film. Don't go into it looking for an intellectual Oscar winner. You're not going to find it here. So as a whole, I'm going to give this film 3 out of 5 stars and say that this is probably a better rental. It's like maybe a Friday night rental. But if you do want to see this movie, an early bird is better because that's actually what I saw this movie, an early bird. But like I said, I was in a room with a bunch of kids, and oh my god, they were a bit of an annoyance. And when you have a lot of girls that go "aww" every 5 seconds, it gets a bit annoying. But don't let that move you away from not seeing this at all. This is worth seeing, just more of a rental.